Hello, friend, and welcome back to our monthly mindful check-in. This is our moment each month to pause intentionally before life just sweeps us into the next 30 days on autopilot. Together, we look at themes, rhythms, reminders, and mindful anchors that can help us move through the month with a little more awareness, alignment, and compassion for ourselves. And June feels alive. Compared to the previous months of the year, we have been thawing out from the cold weather and slowly emerging from our internal reflection, slowly choosing what gets planted and nourished. But for June, there's something about this month that naturally pulls us outward towards connection, movement, expression, and asking ourselves what we actually want this second half of the year to feel like. Because somehow we are already approaching the halfway point of 2026, which honestly feels both impossible and a little rude. Like, didn't we just put away holiday decorations like 5 business days ago? But June has this beautiful transitional quality to it. June is associated with the air element, not in a mystical, your ceiling fan is spiritually judging you type of way, but symbolically through thought, communication, movement, breath, intellect, and transitions. Air is a life source. It moves things, it carries things, and it doesn't just move in one direction, it changes. And I feel like June really reflects that energy. June 2026 is full of themes around communication shifts, fresh starts, opportunities, confidence, creativity, and reorientation. The first half of the month especially supports quick thinking, social connection, learning, networking, writing, and starting new projects. It's a very mentally active month. And I think mindfulness becomes especially important during mentally active seasons because when life speeds up, we stop noticing ourselves inside of it. So this month, I want us to stay connected to ourselves while life moves. Now, before we get into some of the larger themes of June, I always love looking at the symbolism and seasonal associations connected to the month. Because humans have always used stories, plants, seasons, stones, and rituals to make meaning out of different periods of life. And June has some quite beautiful ones. The name June is believed to come from Junius in Latin. It's also associated with Juno from Roman mythology, who Juno was considered the queen of Roman gods, and she was connected to marriage, protection, women, childbirth, devotion, and transitions. And honestly, whether we connect to mythology literally or not, I think there's still something meaningful in noticing what humans across time associated with this season: protection, connection, nurturing relationships, transitioning into something new. That feels very June. The flowers associated with June are the rose and honeysuckle. Honestly, a couple of my favorites. And rose, they feel especially important this month because even though thanks to commercialism and Valentine's Day, red roses are generally associated with romantic love. But spiritually, they are historically tied to self love, self acceptance, and reconnecting with who we are and who we've been. I love roses. They're so beautiful and great for skincare, but also because it's this beautiful thing. But if you're not careful when you're handling them, they'll cut you with your thorns. Their thorns. I think that reminds us of our responsibility to protect the beauty we all hold within us so that we can bloom. Honeysuckle carries themes of sweetness, happiness, nostalgia, devotion, and intuition. And I think this is a powerful companion for our mindfulness journeys because it reminds us that mindfulness isn't just about processing the hard things. Sometimes it's letting ourselves fully experience joy while it's here and letting ourselves notice beauty and the sweet parts of life while it's happening instead of just missing it afterwards. The stones for this month are pearl and moonstone, another one of my favorites. Pearls symbolize inner wisdom, emotional balance, and purity. And pearls are a fascinating thing because they begin as an irritation that is then transformed over time to this beautiful stone. And really, that may be the most emotionally accurate metaphor for personal growth I've ever heard. Moonstone's one of my favorites. It's associated with intuition, emotional clarity, and inner guidance. Mythology says moonstones were formed from solidified moonbeams, which is objectively one of the prettiest things humans have ever invented. But symbolically, moonstone reminds us to slow down enough to hear ourselves again, to notice what our body and emotions are communicating, because we can't mindfully move forward if we refuse to acknowledge where we actually are. Okay, there are some herbs associated with June too. We have here with us today lavender. I didn't bring my mint. And we've also got some mugwort. Lavender, of course, is for peace and calming the nervous system as we move through the transitions and the mental load. Mint is great for vitality, freshness, and energy. And mugwort is traditionally associated with dreams, imagination, and subconscious awareness. So it is a perfect companion as a tea, maybe mixing in a little mint because the mugwort flavor isn't so great. But mugwort is a nervine, which means it directly interacts with our nervous system to promote relaxation and relieve stress, which may be what we need this month, as the energies of the month give us opportunities to step out of our comfort zone and into bringing our dreams and big goals into reality. June is just a beautiful month for grounding rituals and practices, whether it's big or small. Maybe for you, that looks like taking time to enjoy a cup of tea or coffee, a bath, and a self-care ritual for before bed, drying fresh herbs in the kitchen, or stepping outside for 5 quiet minutes before getting into the next thing. Now, energetically, June is really a month of illumination where we can see with more clarity and peel back the layers, becoming more conscious of what it is that is driving us, draining us, inspiring us, or keeping us stuck. And I think one of the most powerful things mindfulness gives us is the ability to notice patterns before they fully become our driving momentum. June also carries themes of abundance and fertility, and I don't mean that only in the material way. This can look like emotional abundance, creative abundance, relational abundance, gratitude, pleasure, feeling more connected to your life instead of constantly bracing against it. It's the season where things we've been cultivating begin showing signs of growth. And sometimes the growth is subtle, and sometimes the abundance we need looks like better rest, more laughter, feeling calmer, setting a boundary, or finally believing you deserve the future that you're excited about. There is also a strong theme of union this month, nurturing relationships, reconnecting with people, and allowing ourselves to be seen again after periods of isolation or survival mode, because healing doesn't have to be done all on your own. Now, astrologically speaking, around June 9th, there is a very supportive alignment connected to luck, success, opportunity, relationships, and finances. And whether you follow astrology literally or simply use the themes as reflection points, I think this part of the month invites us to become more open to receiving. Some of us have become very skilled at enduring and surviving, but receiving support, joy, rest, opportunity, love, or recognition, that can actually feel harder. So maybe one mindful practice for this part of the month is asking, what would change if I stopped assuming everything good has to be earned through exhaustion? All right, then around June 13th, confidence and creativity really begin building. And remember, creativity isn't just for artists. We all need creativity to imagine new solutions, reinventing our stagnant routines, allowing ourselves to think differently, or even just believing that change itself is possible. And sometimes creativity is simply refusing to believe this current version of life is the only version available to you. Then we move into the new moon on June 15th, which really acts like a reset point for the month. And it's a good time for fresh starts. This is the time to launch new ideas, start projects, expand your social circle, make travel plans, start new routines, recommit to goals that actually matter to you instead of the goals that just get you by or just look impressive from the outside. This new moon is a wonderful time to pause and ask yourself, what do I want the second half of this year to feel like emotionally? Not just what do you want to accomplish, but how do you want to feel while you're living your life? Because mindfulness is about creating choice. Now, later in the month, things slow down slightly and require more intention and caution. And I like that balance. I appreciate that because June reminds us that momentum is important, but reflection is what keeps momentum from getting reckless. Late in the month, on the 21st, we do have the summer solstice hitting right at 4:24 a.m. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice. I'll have a separate video linked below and on the solstice video as well. But on the 15th, we'll do a full length video on a mindful summer solstice. This day has long been associated with illumination, abundance, vitality, clarity, and decisive action. It's sometimes called midsummer, and I love that because it feels like we're standing in the threshold, the center of the year, for just a moment and looking honestly at the road ahead of us and the road behind us. The solstice reminds us to interrupt autopilot, to consciously choose our direction instead of just drifting along. Traditionally, this time is associated with fire energy from the sun. It's our personal power, confidence, and vitality. That fire in your belly feeling, the part of us that says, I am allowed to participate in my own life and not just be along for the ride. On the other side of the solstice, we get the reminder that we are shifting into the part of the year where the days start to get shorter. Even the longest day reminds us there is something different ahead. And there's wisdom in that. Nothing is forever, not hardship, not growth, not joy, and not grief. The only constant is change, which is exactly why presence matters so much. All right, at the very end of the month, we have the strawberry moon, June's full moon on the 29th, named after the season of wild strawberry harvests. This moon is associated with gratitude, abundance, sweetness, and reflection. And because it arrives so close to the halfway point of the year, I think it creates a really beautiful opportunity to ask ourselves, what has grown in me this year? What still needs care? And what am I finally ready to appreciate about myself? All right. Before we close out, you know I like to sprinkle little fun, mindful anchors throughout the month. So from daysoftheyear.com, I have picked some that I really liked. On June 1st, we have National Go Barefoot Day. And yes, there's actually science suggesting that direct contact with the earth may support grounding and stress reduction. But even beyond that, this day reminds us to appreciate the parts of our bodies that quietly carry us through life every single day. Our feet absorb so much of our attention, our posture, our movement, and our exhaustion. If you can safely go outside barefoot for a few moments, great. If not, maybe this is the day you choose shoes that support your body instead of fighting against it all day long. And maybe clean out your closet and donate shoes that you no longer wear because this day also raises awareness for those without access to adequate footwear. Then on June 11th, we have National Making Life Beautiful Day. And I love this one because it reminds us that beauty is something we contribute to. Beauty can be art, kindness, encouragement. Beauty can be leaving a generous tip or supporting a local cause or finally taking one brave step towards a dream you've been postponing. Sometimes beauty is simply making someone else feel less alone for 5 minutes. And then on the 27th, we have Multiculturalism Day, a day centered around appreciating cultural diversity, learning from one another, and expanding our understanding of the world around us. Mindfulness asks us to remain curious, to listen, to learn, to change assumptions, and to recognize humanity in people whose lives just look different than ours. So maybe this month, try a new food, learn a phrase in another language, watch an international film, visit a cultural event, or simply spend more time listening than assuming. As we close out this month's check-in, I think June invites us to move with greater awareness, to reconnect with our voice, relationships, creativity, bodies, and our direction, and also to notice where life is asking us to open instead of contract. June reminds us that that self-acceptance and growth are not opposites. You don't have to hate yourself in order to become someone new. Maybe the work for this month is simply becoming more honest about who you are and learning how to meet that person with gratitude, compassion, and care. So, what are you intentionally cultivating during this season of your life? Friend, thank you for joining me for this mindful pause as we step into June. Stay present, stay kind to yourself, and I will see you soon.